King Charles has made a decision that is sending shockwaves throughout Britain. Not because anyone expected it, but because almost no one saw it coming. In a move that surprised royal watchers, Charles has entrusted Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, with the role of Royal Regent, the individual authorized to carry out the monarch's constitutional responsibilities whenever the king is unable to do so. The moment news of the appointment began spreading, one question immediately dominated the conversation. The answer is far more significant than it first appears. Once the full picture becomes clear, it changes the way many people view the British monarchy today. Before we continue, let us know your opinion in the comments. Do you believe Princess Anne was always the right choice for this responsibility, or did King Charles's decision surprise you? Inside the palace, however, another question quietly emerged. There is already someone who carries the title of Queen Consort. Someone who stands beside the king during state ceremonies, accompanies him on official visits, and represents the crown before the world. Yet when Charles decided who should exercise the constitutional authority of the monarchy whenever he could not, that responsibility did not go to Camilla. Instead, it went to Princess Anne. That was not an accidental decision. In a monarchy built on centuries of tradition, every senior appointment is carefully considered. Every public move carries meaning. Every signal is intentional. And once you understand what the position of Royal Regent truly represents, this appointment becomes one of the strongest messages King Charles has delivered since becoming monarch. But to understand why Anne was chosen ahead of everyone else, even figures much closer in the line of succession, you first need to understand the difficult situation King Charles has been facing. Because the pressure surrounding the monarchy today is unlike anything seen in recent decades. And the story began long before Princess Anne received this remarkable responsibility. The British monarchy has always projected an image of stability. For generations, strict protocol, experienced palace staff, and carefully managed public appearances have helped create the impression that the institution remains calm, organized, and firmly in control regardless of the circumstances. But behind the official statements and carefully planned events, enormous pressure has been building. And that pressure has been coming from several directions at the same time. Early in 2024, King Charles publicly revealed that he had been diagnosed with cancer. The announcement itself marked a significant departure from royal tradition. For decades, monarchs had treated their personal health as an intensely private matter, rarely allowing the public to know the full extent of any medical condition. Charles chose a different path. He embraced transparency. But openness could not change one unavoidable reality. Cancer treatment demands time, strength, and energy, while the constitutional responsibilities of the crown never simply stop. At almost the same moment, the Princess of Wales, Catherine, was dealing with her own serious health challenges following major abdominal surgery and a subsequent cancer diagnosis. Her recovery required privacy and careful medical attention. As a result, Prince William found himself balancing two enormous responsibilities at once. He was supporting his recovering wife while also caring for their 3 young children, all while preparing for the future role he knows he will eventually inherit. Adding the full constitutional responsibilities of the monarchy to those personal burdens would have placed an extraordinary strain on anyone. King Charles therefore faced an urgent practical problem. The crown needed someone capable of stepping in whenever required. Not merely a ceremonial representative, but someone trusted to receive confidential state papers, review sensitive government briefings, and legally exercise the monarch's constitutional authority when necessary. Yet the number of suitable candidates had grown surprisingly small. Prince Harry had stepped away from royal duties and established a new life in California. Prince Andrew had withdrawn from public royal service following years of controversy. One by one, the most obvious alternatives had disappeared. Charles needed someone whose loyalty, experience, and judgment were beyond question. And as the list became shorter, one name continued to stand above all the others. Princess Anne. The strongest argument for Princess Anne was never based on emotion. It was built on decades of consistent service. For more than 50 years, she has quietly carried out one royal duty after another without seeking headlines or public praise. Each year, and completes well over 450 official engagements, regularly placing her among the busiest working members of the royal family. She has never relied on media attention to build her reputation. She rarely sits down for interviews. She avoids unnecessary publicity. Instead, she has allowed her work to speak for itself. But Anne's greatest strength reaches far beyond the number of appearances she makes. It lies in something much more important. Unlike other senior royals, Princess Anne has never had a realistic path to the throne. When she was young, the rules of succession gave preference to male heirs. Although Anne was born before two of her brothers, they automatically moved ahead of her in the line of succession simply because they were male. Over time, her place continued to move further down the succession list. Rather than creating resentment, however, that reality gave Anne something extremely valuable: freedom. She never needed to compete for influence or position. Whenever she represents the crown, no one believes she is acting out of personal ambition. There is no political faction supporting her. No hidden campaign. No expectation that she will one day become monarch. Her only purpose has always been serving the institution itself. Ironically, that absence of personal ambition became one of her greatest strengths. Queen Elizabeth II recognized this long before anyone else. Throughout her reign, she repeatedly entrusted Anne with some of the monarchy's most sensitive overseas assignments. These were not ceremonial visits designed for photographs. Many involved difficult diplomatic situations where experience, judgment, and careful decision-making were essential. Again and again, Anne handled those responsibilities with remarkable professionalism. Those assignments were never acts of favoritism. They reflected the confidence Queen Elizabeth had developed after watching her daughter's dedication over many decades. Long before Charles became king, Anne had already earned a reputation as one of the most dependable figures within the entire royal family. As Queen Elizabeth entered the final years of her reign, she had already begun preparing for challenges the monarchy might face under King Charles. In late 2022, she approved what many people believed was simply a routine constitutional adjustment. At the time, it attracted very little public attention. Looking back today, however, its true significance has become much clearer. Through Parliament, changes were made to the Regency Acts, permanently adding Princess Anne and Prince Edward to the list of councillors of state, the senior royals legally authorized to carry out the monarch's official duties whenever the king is temporarily unable to do so. Officially, the amendment was described as a practical measure designed to ensure enough active working royals remained available. But in reality, it solved a much larger problem. Prince Harry had stepped away from royal responsibilities. Prince Andrew had withdrawn from public life following continuing controversy. Although both technically remained eligible under the previous system, neither was realistically expected to exercise constitutional authority on behalf of the crown. Rather than creating public conflict, Queen Elizabeth quietly resolved the issue through legislation. By placing Anne and Edward into those positions, she ensured that trusted, experienced working royals would always be available whenever the monarchy required them. It was an elegant constitutional solution. There were no public confrontations. No dramatic announcements. Simply a carefully written legal change that strengthened the institution while avoiding unnecessary controversy. Many royal observers now believe that decision reflected Elizabeth's long-term vision for the future. She understood the challenges Charles would eventually face and quietly prepared the monarchy before those challenges arrived. When King Charles later confirmed Princess Anne's expanded constitutional responsibilities, many saw it not as a completely new decision, but as the natural continuation of the foundation his mother had already established years earlier. In many ways, Charles was simply completing a plan that Queen Elizabeth had carefully put into motion long before the world realized why it mattered. There was another moment that revealed just how deeply King Charles trusted his sister. It came during his coronation in May 2023. Among all the ceremonial traditions that day, Charles selected Princess Anne to serve as his gold stick in waiting, one of the oldest and most respected positions connected to the personal protection of the monarch. Wearing full military uniform and riding on horseback, Anne followed directly behind the gold state coach as it made its way through the streets of London. Millions watched the procession. To many viewers, it appeared to be another historic royal tradition. Inside the palace, however, the message was unmistakable. Charles had publicly demonstrated that Princess Anne was one of the people he trusted more than anyone else. That display of confidence did not happen by chance. It reflected a relationship built over decades. Yet the most fascinating part of this story has very little to do with constitutional law or royal ceremonies. Instead, it reaches back many years into the personal history of the royal family. Long before Camilla became Queen Consort. Long before Charles finally married the woman he had loved for decades. Princess Anne's life had already crossed paths with Andrew Parker Bowles. During the early 1970s, Anne and Andrew developed a close friendship through their shared love of horses and equestrian competitions. Many royal historians have acknowledged that the two became very close during that period. However, several circumstances, including religious considerations surrounding marriage into the royal family at that time, meant the relationship never progressed toward marriage. Eventually, Anne married Captain Mark Phillips. Andrew Parker Bowles later married Camilla. Years afterward, Camilla became the central figure in Charles's personal life before eventually becoming his wife and later Queen Consort following Queen Elizabeth II passing. These events are part of well-documented royal history rather than speculation. While they belong to the past, they provide important background for understanding today's situation. Because despite Camilla holding one of the highest royal titles in Britain, the constitutional authority of the crown now rests elsewhere whenever Charles is unable to act. That responsibility belongs to Princess Anne. And that distinction says more about trust than it does about titles. One person who quietly watched Princess Anne's growing importance without seeking attention was her husband, Vice Admiral Sir Timothy Lawrence. His own journey within the royal family says a great deal about how loyalty is recognized inside the monarchy. Timothy first entered the royal household during the mid-1980s while serving as a naval officer and equerry to Queen Elizabeth II. He never chased publicity or attempted to build influence. Instead, he worked quietly behind the scenes, observing the demands of royal life while supporting and through decades of public service. Queen Elizabeth appreciated that dedication. In 2011, she appointed Timothy as a Knight Commander of the Royal Victorian Order, one of the monarch's personal honors awarded to individuals who have provided exceptional service to the sovereign. King Charles later elevated that recognition even further. He promoted Timothy to Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order, the highest rank within the order itself. Unlike political honors, this distinction came directly from the king. It represented Charles's personal appreciation for Timothy's unwavering loyalty and years of quiet support for Princess Anne. In many ways, the promotion reflected more than gratitude toward Timothy alone. It also revealed the qualities Charles values most within those closest to the crown. There was another moment that deeply moved the British public. During a BBC documentary released around the time of Charles's coronation, Princess Anne spoke openly about Queen Elizabeth II's final days at Balmoral. She revealed that her mother had privately worried about the practical difficulties her passing at Balmoral might create for the government, the royal family, and the nation. And gently reassured her. She encouraged the Queen not to worry about logistics but simply to spend her remaining time where she felt happiest. Later, Anne reflected on the state funeral. She described watching the imperial state crown being lifted from her mother's coffin and admitted she felt an unexpected sense of relief. Not relief because her mother was gone, but relief because the extraordinary burden Queen Elizabeth had carried for more than 70 years had finally come to an end. It was one of the rare occasions when a senior royal spoke so honestly about the emotional cost of lifelong public duty. That moment reminded millions of people that behind every royal title stands a human being who carries responsibilities few could truly imagine. Princess Anne's remarks resonated with people across Britain because they revealed something rarely discussed about royal life. Behind the ceremonies, the formal titles, and the public appearances lies a lifetime of personal sacrifice. For more than 5 decades, Anne has carried out hundreds of official duties every year. She has represented the crown in challenging situations, traveled to regions requiring delicate diplomacy, and accepted difficult assignments without ever seeking recognition. She simply continued doing what the institution required. That quiet dedication gradually earned enormous respect from both the public and those working inside the palace. Recent opinion polls have consistently placed Princess Anne among the most admired members of the royal family, standing alongside Catherine, Princess of Wales, and the enduring legacy of Queen Elizabeth II. But beneath the growing admiration for Anne lies another reality that continues to attract attention. Camilla holds the title of Queen Consort. She stands beside King Charles during state banquets, official ceremonies, and major national occasions. Yet when it comes to the constitutional machinery of the monarchy, her responsibilities are remarkably limited. She does not receive classified government briefings. She does not review confidential state papers. Nor does she exercise constitutional authority on behalf of the king. Those responsibilities now rest with Princess Anne whenever circumstances require. That distinction speaks volumes. While Camilla represents the monarchy publicly, and has become one of the institution's most trusted guardians behind the scenes, public perception has also played an important role. For many people, memories surrounding Princess Diana continue to shape opinions about Camilla, regardless of the years that have passed. Whether fair or unfair, those views remain part of the national conversation. As Anne's reputation continues to rise because of decades of dedicated public service, the contrast between the two women becomes even more noticeable. Camilla carries the royal title. Princess Anne carries the king's confidence. And in today's monarchy, trust has proven to be every bit as valuable as status itself. King Charles's decision to entrust Princess Anne with the responsibilities of Royal Regent represents far more than a simple constitutional appointment. It reflects the direction in which the modern monarchy is evolving. For generations, the royal family maintained an image of complete stability. Personal struggles, illness, and internal challenges were rarely acknowledged in public. The institution presented itself as unshakable, regardless of what was happening behind palace walls. Today, that approach has clearly changed. Charles openly shared news of his cancer diagnosis. Catherine also spoke publicly about her own health journey. For the first time in modern royal history, the monarchy has shown a willingness to acknowledge that those who wear the crown are also human beings facing real personal challenges. The appointment of Princess Anne fits naturally into that new approach. It recognizes that even a monarch cannot carry every responsibility alone. More importantly, it demonstrates that experience, reliability, and proven service now matter more than appearances or ceremonial status. And brings something to this position that cannot be measured by any official document. She brings decades of wisdom earned through public service. She brings the confidence that comes from 50 years of unwavering dedication. And perhaps most importantly, she brings absolute loyalty to the institution without any personal ambition attached to the role. Prince William has repeatedly shown enormous respect for his aunt. On several public occasions, both William and Catherine have willingly stepped aside to allow Anne the recognition her years of service deserve. Their actions have quietly demonstrated that the next generation views Princess Anne as one of the strongest foundations of the modern monarchy. Her appointment also gives William something he urgently needs. Time. Time to support Catherine during her recovery. Time to remain present for George, Charlotte, and Louis. and time to prepare carefully for the day he eventually becomes king without carrying every constitutional responsibility before that moment arrives. In many ways, Charles has done more than appoint a royal regent. He has established a powerful example for the future. An example showing that trust, experience, and lifelong service can outweigh tradition alone. As Princess Anne now stands ready to act whenever the crown requires her, many royal observers believe this decision could influence how future monarchs distribute responsibility within the royal family. One thing is certain. King Charles has not simply filled an important constitutional role. He has reshaped expectations about leadership inside the monarchy itself. And the full impact of that decision may only become clear in the years ahead. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next royal update. As Princess Anne assumes this historic responsibility, the monarchy enters a new chapter, one shaped not only by tradition, but by proven ability and unwavering trust. For many years, royal authority was often associated with titles and position. King Charles has shown that experience and dedication can be just as important. By choosing Anne, he has placed constitutional responsibility in the hands of someone who has spent a lifetime serving the crown without seeking recognition or personal advantage. That decision sends a clear message about the values guiding his reign. It also offers reassurance during a period of uncertainty. With Charles continuing medical treatment and Catherine focusing on her recovery, the institution now has a trusted figure capable of maintaining stability whenever needed. Princess Anne has become that steady presence. Prince William has also benefited from this arrangement. Rather than immediately carrying additional constitutional duties, he has been given valuable time to focus on his family while preparing for the responsibilities that will one day become entirely his own. Many royal commentators believe this balance strengthens the monarchy rather than weakening it. It allows each senior royal to contribute where they are most effective while protecting the continuity of the institution. Perhaps that is the greatest significance of Charles's decision. This was never simply about appointing a royal regent. It was about ensuring that the crown remained stable, reliable, and prepared for every circumstance. Princess Anne's decades of faithful service, Queen Elizabeth's quiet long-term planning, and King Charles's confidence in his sister have all come together in one remarkable appointment. History may ultimately remember this decision not because it broke with tradition, but because it demonstrated that the future of the monarchy depends on trust earned through years of service rather than titles alone. Only time will reveal how this precedent shapes the reign of King Charles and, eventually, that of Prince William. But one thing is already clear. Princess Anne's role has become more important than ever, and her influence within the royal family has reached a level few could have imagined only a few years ago. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next royal update.